When beginning the story of William George Gooding, we have to remind ourselves that we travel the journey of a lifetime that has transcended many epochs. As he took his first breath and entered the vast unknown of this world of his inception, in the tiny Free State hamlet of Viljoensdrift on the Vaal River, on the 28th of January, 1916. It was in an age when people illuminated and powered their homes with candles and coal, and traveled by train, ox wagon, horse cart, or on foot. Motor cars were few and rarely seen. Telephones were a luxury hardly known. Not even radio had had a chance to make its first broadcast. And on top of all that, the world in which he arrived was enduring a war of excruciating proportions. Indeed, very few survived the massive conflagration without somehow not being scathed in one way or another. Baby Bill was born to Margaret Dean, daughter of boat builder and fisherman William Dean, of the coastal village of Lossiemouth, near Elgin in northern Scotland. The wee laddie's father, also William George Gooding, was of a recently immigrated English family from Swindon who had come to work in the burgeoning railway industry in colonial South Africa after the discovery of gold and diamonds in the late 19th century. The young William spent his formative years in Vereeniging, growing up on the estate and in the community known as the Brick and Tile. His father driving the loco, conveying clay goods to and from the refractory that would belch smoke from its giant chimney stack, seen from miles around. For a child growing up there, it must have been wonderful. Selborne School was within walking distance, and all the amusements that would make this a charming life were to be found either on the Vaal River or in the surrounding veldt. The Gooding household at the Brick and Tile had all the elements to certainly make it a happy one. Wee Willie was surrounded by doting mother Maggie and adoring elder sisters Alice and Jessie. So close was his father's place of work, and so intimate the environment, that the young lad would have the enjoyable errand of taking freshly prepared lunch in its appropriate scoff tin to his father as he rested in the middle of his duties. We have to gather that school was a fun experience, drawing our conclusions from the veritable anthology that he was able to remember of poetry taught to him whilst at Selborne. Indeed, virtually to his dying day, his recall of poems like Vitae Lampada, Charge of the Light Brigade, All the World's a Stage, and countless others was something that we as a family marveled at and were entertained by. Certainly, this was the hallmark that we all seemed to come to know him by, whether it was as children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, or anyone who would be drawn in by his beguiling personality and performances. You see, you have to know that Bill Gooding had a sense of the stage and thoroughly relished the attention of an audience. At the age of 12, he played the last post for the visiting Prince of Wales, never faltering as a soloist with those difficult-to-reach bugle notes. And it was not only poetry that would have us riveted, it was also his Madame Mavani-trained singing voice that would entertain us to a repertoire of songs ranging from classic to operetta. As a Bing Crosby or Nelson Eddy sound-alike, he was superb, with a lilting lyrical voice that was oh so sweet. And if he was not singing into a cup, he would sing into a mic, but always with someone there to enjoy and express appreciation. He had a simply perfected signing off characteristic. He would use this technique. At the end of a song or poem recital, he would conclude with a clearing of the throat and words like, so there, or so there you have it, or how was that, or what do you think? Immediately filling in with the rider that being as the best of Madame Mavani's protégés, the world was his oyster, and its halls and theatres were waiting for him, quickly reminding us that this most certainly would have happened had the Second World War not intervened, Naturally, this would have people cheering in the aisles, screaming for more. That was what he wanted, and that was how he worked his audience. What a showman, but always with the right amount of modesty and humility, never bombastic. By all accounts, his days at school were fun and enjoyable. They were, however, sprinkled with the odd run-in with teachers who took it as their right to beat the children in their care, when they would seek, invariably in ways most sadistic, the opportunity to put right anything that, in their opinion, was found not to be up to scratch. It was against this climate of abuse by many so-called educationalists in their handling of their charges that the teenage William would develop an enforced program of self-protection where he learnt to put up his dukes. And so happened the subject of many a tale. How we would be regaled by stories of fistfights with a town bully that would have us enthralled as he recounted the blow-by-blow, minute-by-minute detail, where a foul run became a boxing ring, and the trophy, the satisfaction of having the baddie knocked flying with a telling and well-delivered blow to the chin that would see him ending up in a large drum of white paint. The early 30s, a time of depression, saw him move to Kronstadt, working as an apprentice for the esteemed Ford agent Fairweather, Castignani and Holmes, staying in that happy place at a happy time with his extended and beloved Scottish family. By the mid-30s, he was back in Vereeniging, here completing his apprenticeship at the even more esteemed Stewarts and Lloyds. He stayed a loyal servant of the company for more than 40 years. Yet another hallmark achievement in a lifetime of many such records. Sacred thy body as thy soul, the motto of the health and strength movement, and a dictum he lived by so strongly for many years. It certainly afforded him a commitment to bodybuilding, weightlifting, wonderful camaraderie, and living a clean and healthy life. And then, at the end of the decade, the world entered yet again a time of war. This time, he was old enough and ready to fight. And if ever there was a regret in his long life, it was that he was not able to take up arms, prevented from doing so by his value as a producer of weapons of war. He took no solace in being a key man, essential in keeping the home fires burning and ensuring that those out in the fight would be kept supplied. All that he could see was that he was being denied the opportunity of doing his duty. Interestingly enough, some 13 years after the war had ended, he was sent by Stewarts and Lloyds to work in Germiston at the Eagle Tube and Brass Foundry, a firm predominated by Germans who had all been involved in World War II in one way or another. It was here that his engaging and honest personality allowed him to be so embraced by the old enemy that he was forced to confess that he rather liked the Jerrys, so much so, in fact, that he was glad he never had to fight them in the end. He had not just been a creator of weapons of war. Bill was gifted with the most wonderful of hands. His hands were, in fact, his therapy. And throughout, his artistic skill was evident through his creations of beautiful steelwork and woodwork, gardens, and features, as he liked to call anything that was just anything. And if something should ever be broken, he could fix it as well. It was about at that time, on the eve of war, that he met the love of his life, his wife, my mother, Rachel. More than 70 years ago, Rachel Evans and Bill Gooding were the bridesmaid and best man at the wedding of Elined, also known as Ninny Evans, and Dick Buttrick. The rest, they say, is history. They met and fell in love, marrying in 1943, staying together, never leaving each other's side for nearly 70 years. The union between Ratch and Bill produced, amongst others, myself and sisters Jocelyn and Jane, 9 grandchildren and 15 great-grandchildren, records of which you see on the screen in front of you today. Ours was a happy home, filled with love and care, order and direction, security, and the presence and support of extended family. much of it dictated by the principles of a father who loved his Bible and its church. I can say with conviction that my life, as well as so many others, has been touched and guided by Dad's undying and intuitive understanding and appreciation of knowing the difference between good and evil, hero and villain, lover and loser. He lived believing in the credo, "Do unto others as you will have them do unto you." And as such, there has to be no argument that he has to be the sole recipient of the Bill Gooding Lifetime Achiever Award. We say goodbye to a character, a personality, an oh-so-loving husband, father, grandfather, and great-grandfather. Rest in peace, Dad, as you take your leave of this world that you had made your stage.